CoCoTALK, Geek Talk, Retro Talk, After Dark stuff. So I think we're going to do it live here in just a second. All right, it's looking like the light is green on YouTube. All right, guys, we are getting ready to do it live for Retro Talk number 5, the Commodore Retro Expo. So here we go.
CoCoTALK After Dark. CoCoTALK After Dark.
That's right, it's Retro Talk After Dark, live from the Commodore Retro Expo. It's a bunch of old white guys talking about old stuff, and it don't get any better than this. And here we are. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Retro Talk number 5, live and on the internets. And our very special guest of honor, Mr. Jim Brain from Retro Innovations, is bringing us live footage, breaking footage, from the Commodore Retro Expo and Prostitution Convention in Las Vegas. You going to get married while you're there, Jim, too?
Sure, why not?
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That's right.
So what are we looking at right now? What's on the big screen here, Jim?
So this is Stephanie Allaire, and she's been working on, so you guys know about the 8-bit guy? David,
yep.
I can't think of his last name. Anyway,
Dave Murray.
Dave
Yep.
Murray, that's right. So earlier this year, Dave indicated that he felt like there needed to be a laundry list for a new computer, something that would have been follow on to the Commodore 64. And so Stephanie took him up on that challenge, and so she created the project called the C256 Phoenix. And so Stephanie's giving her a presentation right now with the goals and the ideals and where she is on the project right at the moment.
Excellent.
Yep. So
excellent.
I'm sure, I mean, they're taping it. It'll be on YouTube later, but right now she's going through, what the goals and kind of what kind of technology she wants to use in the project. It's going to use FPGAs. It's going to use a mix of new technology and old technology.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Very cool.
So,
so this is like similar to the speaking portion of like a Coco Fest or a Tandy Assembly. There's a different room for the presentations versus the exhibits.
This one actually, some of the shows have the presentation in the same room as the demonstrations. So I'll just be walking around. You can see some of the booths are kind of around the periphery of the room here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's all in the same room.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yep.
And we looked at the website a little bit earlier.
Yep.
The website for someone who wanted to check out this event, it is called crxevent.com, the Commodore Retro Expo going on right now.
That's right.
In Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And compared to like a Coco Fest, how would you say the size and of this is?
I would say this is probably a third of the size of the most recent Coco Fest. There's about 30-35 people in the show here.
Okay.
It seemed to me more like instead of being a show where it's kind of open to the public, it is open to the public, but it seemed to me like a number of folks are coming here kind of as a kind of a hackathon type of thing. So it's more of the presenters coming in and talking amongst themselves and having some time to kind of work on various projects and whatnot. So this is going to finish up. It's only 6 o'clock here in Pacific time. So after this, I'm sure there'll be some dinner, and then later in the evening there'll be some hacking, like is done at Coco Fest. But
sure.
But definitely, it's a smaller, it's a larger venue, but it's a smaller group.
Okay. But honestly, when it comes to something like this, it's more about the quality than the quantity, right? And if you got 6 people who all have the same interests and you get along and productive discussions take place, that's still a good thing. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
I tell you what, when you guys can go to the do the rest of the introductions for who's on the panel and whatnot. I realized I'm on my cell phone signal, and I need to switch over to Wi-Fi, and so I'm gonna flip off and come back in and get Wi-Fi started up.
All right,
Okay.
all right, we can do that. We can switch to panel view. Well, hey, listen, thanks for giving us this coverage. Whatever we can get, we're grateful for. So thanks for suggesting that, and hopefully more to come here in the very near future.
Yep, we'll get there.
Okay. And if anybody wants to talk to us, if you can, we'll gladly talk to Commodore people.
Fair enough.
All right, so with us on the panel, joining us again for the second time in one day, Richard Lorbieski of Boyle Technologies.
Hey, it looks like Jim's over at the Red Rooster.
Yeah, that's right.
Cock-a-doodle-doo. Now, for the benefit, Richard, of maybe some of the folks who are watching us, I have a feeling that a few people will be tuning in that are not familiar with us from CoCoTALK that are maybe more interested in the retro angle of this. Why don't you give people a little backstory on what you've done in the past, back when retro was new, from then till today?
You talking about my life story here?
Yes, sure.
Oh, okay. Well,
just the good parts, so it should be short.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, let's see. Age 17, I was hired by Tandy. I worked at one of their factories in San Antonio called Ballplate Things Tandy Computer Assembly, and I was hired starting in their assembly line, but they moved me to the tech area, and then from there I had moved up the chain.
Jim, I'm going to mute you for a second, okay? Because, just getting a lot of background chatter there. Okay, sorry. So you were starting to say the assembly area.
Yeah, I worked for Tandy Computer Assembly. Then eventually I was transferred out, and I started working for Radio Shack. I was a field service tech, and then I was promoted to a repair manager. So that's basically my starting background check with the retro computers. And I had a computer store. I ran an ISP, did all sorts of things. But throughout the years, I've played with the Coca. I really enjoyed it and started getting back into it a couple of years ago. Excellent.
And so the company you have now called Boyle Technologies, you are providing new hardware accessories for the Tandy color computer. You also do upgrades and repairs to people who have these systems that need some maintenance done to them.
Right, correct. With the maintenance, what I do is like recapping, replacing the CPU, and I also do not retro brighting, but what I do is I take the board and I clean it, and I use what they call ultrasonic cleaning, which is a cleaning solution. It goes through an ultrasonic cleaner, gets rid of all the grime, dirt, dust, whatever, and especially the flux or the rosin off the boards, make it almost brand new.
Gotcha.
And also,
cool stuff.
Yeah, and also do the 2 meg boomerang boards.
Very, very cool. We have somebody in the live chat whose name is 898 Delvaux. That's what he's saying. I'm not familiar with everybody's handles in the various retro communities, but he's asking, is anybody else here Commodore 64 owner or fan, or if you're familiar with the C64? I think Mark Overholz was chiming in. I'm sure there are a few of us here who are familiar with that machine and have possibly owned one in the past or maybe own one now. So we're getting some feedback there in the live chat. Also with us on the talk tonight, we've got Al Hartman. How are you, Al?
I'm okay, and I'm also a Commodore 64 owner.
Okay, so another C64 guy. There you go. So Al's got some interest.
Not mainly, but I got one from the local guy. Got 2 actually, and just I wanted to learn. So I like learning new systems.
Sure. Very good. Let me try to unmute Jim again just to see how loud. Yeah. I'm going to mute you again, Jim. Sorry. Very cool. Thanks for being here, Al. And we have with us, bringing us the live footage from, I'll unmute you in case he wants to talk. But so Jim Brain of Retro Innovations. Jim Brain, maker of fine quality hardware accessories for a variety of retro systems. Jim, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing us this coverage.
No problem.
And Jim's website is go4retro.com. So if you need Commodore accessories, TI accessories, Color computer accessories, Retro Innovations has got you covered. Here we can see some of the exhibit booth areas
We can.
of the event.
Yep,
There we go.
I was gonna walk around to some of them. So over here they've got this particular show is put on by the C5 group, and I'm not exactly sure what C5 stands for, but you can see here. This is their logo. Let me see right there.
Okay,
I
C5.
think it's the Clark County Commodore Computer Club. I think is what
Okay,
it
so
is.
there's 5 C's in their name, so like
That's
C
right.
to the 5th power.
That's right.
Okay.
So
Where's this being held at?
this is in Las Vegas. This is at the Plaza Hotel.
Oh, okay, downtown.
Yep,
Okay.
downtown. So this is some of their stuff that they've put together.
Oh, there's a red one.
Yeah, there is. There's so that's a looks like it's got a built-in.
Wow, look at that.
So it's loading an image. This is like the Coco SDC for the Commodore, and then these are. This is probably a SID station type of machine. So this is probably an SD2 IEC based device. It's got the LEDs for it over here, the reset button, and so forth. Showing a demo right now.
Is this one of those cases that were made a couple of years ago when they found the original molds for the?
No, this is a bread bin case. It looks like it's been painted, and then they put some graphics on it right now.
Yeah, that's neat. That's very
Like
customized.
the different colored keys there.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are C64C keys, and these are C64 keys. I'm pretty sure this is because it's used as a keyboard or a piano keyboard.
Oh, so trying to make it like the black and white keys like you find on a musical
That's
keyboard.
right. Sorry. That's right. So
Yeah.
This is what they look like normally.
yeah.
Look at that. There's an Atari joystick lamp. That is funny. And is the red button the toggle switch for the lamp?
It is.
Oh, no. You just shut down the internet there for a second. Sorry, folks.
Award is fragile.
That's funny.
Must be Italian.
I didn't even notice that.
That is so cool.
This is a
C64 Mini, yeah.
Yep. So you guys know about that.
That's a new thing.
Here's a 128.
Nice.
And
How much RAM does it have in it?
Ha ha ha. Here's some really old machines.
Oh, wow. That's like the Coleco. It looks like the Coleco multicade console thing, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Trojan phaser light gun for the Amiga.
There's an Odyssey 2.
And it's got the voice system added to it.
Neat.
So
that's in really good shape, too. It's nice and shiny.
It is. Let's see what else is here. We got an Amiga 500. Somewhere looks like they put a carbon fiber case on it.
Wow.
So it's a really nice machine.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. I'm not as well versed on the Amigas, but I don't know if that's some sort of contact paper or what. But then they've got a number of.
No, that's one of those new reproduction cases.
Is it? Okay.
By the looks of it.
Okay.
Well, there you know, you got VR headset for the Amiga, and there's a monitor. A power monitor. Looks like this is a new product.
Oh, so this is telling you what's going through your power supply, like monitoring your voltages and stuff?
Correct. It is. You plug it into the user port of your VIC-20 or your 120 or your 64, and it'll tell you what your power output is and voltage and amperage.
I love the logo there, 1501.
Is that what the floppy drive was called originally?
1541 was the floppy drive.
1571.
Okay.
Well, good thing they're an authorized Amiga dealer, too. That's good.
Yeah.
That's right.
Authorized. Except no imitations on your third party.
That manual is like total retro. I mean, it looks.
It is. It is absolutely retro. It's really good. I'm
just
impressed.
like 1541.
I'm impressed. A Magic Voice, which is a speech synthesizer for the C64.
Neat.
And then this unit here is the 1541 Ultimate 2. It's a cycle exact FPGA implementation of the 1541.
And what is the 1541?
The 1541 was the
single-sided floppy drive.
Drive for the. I'll show you a picture one here in a little bit. They're sitting around here. They're the boat anchor drives that people are more familiar with.
Okay.
And then somebody made a little 3D printed case for an Amiga fitting around a Pi, Raspberry Pi.
Okay, that's neat.
Mm-hmm.
Animation station, like a big old koala pad on steroids there.
That's right. It is.
Yeah.
And then there's a koala pad right there for the Commodore.
Okay. Yeah.
So, did they have one for the Coco?
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
Plug.
Acoustic
Oh,
modem.
is that a Commodore phones there too? Yeah. TI modem.
It's a TI modem.
Sacrilege.
But this is a Commodore phone.
A Commodore branded phone?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure somebody put a sticker on that, but okay, we'll go with that.
No, actually,
oh,
no.
seriously?
It is a Commodore phone, but it's a Northern Telecom phone. It must be a Canadian thing.
Hey.
This guy was here earlier today. He does sound sampling and whatnot, so he's got his thing set up here. He was doing something really cool. He was doing with his koala pad. He was using it to do like theremin type sounds. You know what a theremin is? That thing where you make the weird eerie sounds. Or you can look it up. Anyway, some people do it with both their hands, both their arms, and it makes these real eerie.
You remember Lost in Space?
like,
some of this music from Lost in Space.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of stuff. So that's what some of the stuff he's doing there. There is one of the Al. This is one of the reproduction cases.
Right.
That's nice. I like the clear look to it.
Clear case. I have a couple of these.
The original molds.
Yes, that's right. They found the original molds.
Wow.
But from what I was reading about them, they modified the original molds to make them easier to reproduce.
They may have, but definitely that's from the original. I mean, that's from that first batch of Kickstarter cases.
And you can take a bread bin out of its case and put it in one of those.
Correct, you can. The only thing you have to do is, I don't think you can see it in here, but there's the little thing right here is a metal clip. You have to have the metal clip.
Yeah, but the guys who sell the cases sell the 3D printed.
That's true. They
clips.
do.
So it doesn't have to be metal.
This is the portable unit.
Yep, it is.
I have
got built-in floppy drive and color CRT.
That's right. We can turn it on here.
Does it have a built-in liquor cabinet?
Yeah, New York had a portable Coco long before the Commodore 64 portable.
Yeah, and they show pictures. They show pictures in the old ads for this, where the guy's like sitting at a table out by a pool,
That's
like
right.
in a business suit, working on his Commodore portable by the pool deck when he's in his hotel or something.
Good vision.
So this particular station, they were using it earlier today. What they're doing is there's a computer eyes. So they have a camera here, and it's hooked to a cartridge. The cartridge is it's hooked to this, and then this is hooked down here. But one of these, here it is. So it's a cartridge called Computer Eyes, and what it would do is it would digitize a black and white picture into the Commodore, and then so they're doing that. They're making name badges for folks, and then they found they found this printer. Brother makes a LaserJet printer, an HL L50,000, I guess is what it is, and it will print using the Epson FX command codes, which is what,
neat.
Which is neat. So they're using Print Shop on this. So they digitize, they bring it over, they put it in Print Shop, and then they print it out on one of these two printers.
Now, this is something I wouldn't mind waiting for. Unlike a thermal receipt at CoCoFest, I wouldn't mind waiting for a digitized badge to be printed out like this.
Yeah, so these are kind of card stock printed black and white laser.
That is pretty cool. That's a neat project. I'm not saying it's a Coco project, but it could be.
Yep. So they've been having people come over and get in front of this screen all day, and then print out. So there it is. That's some of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah, that's neat.
So anyway, they're doing that.
Hey,
and then
we can do that on the Coco with the Coco Graphics Designer Plus.
You could. I just think it's pretty neat.
There was a computerized solution for the Coco.
Oh, okay.
I remember seeing it at a Rainbow Fest.
So now this is Jim Happel's VR64 project. So I'll show you. He's got the units over here, but so he's taken one of these cheap iPhone type VR goggle things, and he instead of putting a iPhone in there, he took and found one of these 5-inch LCD screens, these composite LCD screens, and he put the LCD screen in there.
Oh, wow.
And then he lined it up so that half the screen is for the left eye and half is for the right eye.
Okay, so it's a custom piece of software?
And yeah, so it is a custom piece of software. And then as you play, he's got it set up so that this eye sees a slightly different, angle than the other one, and so it looks 3D when you have the goggles
So it's
on.
basically kind of like a ViewMaster effect of getting the three-dimensional stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, this is a 1541.
Okay. That's a BAF, a big ass floppy right there.
It is right there. So he's got.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
He'll have this at. He demoed it last year at VCF Midwest, and he'll have it again this year at VCF Midwest.
Well, I'd like to see that in person.
So
yeah.
he's got a couple of them for sale. I don't know how much these.
How much are they?
I don't know. I'd have to ask him. But he's got the game here, Street Defender. It's on tape.
If it's composite, it'll work on a Coco 3. You just need someone to write the software.
Yeah, that's right. There's nothing special. It's just a composite output. Then he's got this little Commodore operating system, kind of an iPhone-like thing. This is a touch screen, and so you can you got the different. So there's the
a touch screen operating system for the Commodore. Talk about a fusion of old and new, huh?
That's right. And so this is the second screen, and then that's the first screen. See right there, like your iPhone.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty slick, man. This is some outside of the box stuff here. These guys are thinking of. Yeah.
So, and then let's see, Oscar. I have one of these. It was an ill-fated way of scanning software in back in the day. It had I think they issued one issue of the magazine. I have it, and this was how your software would come this way.
Oh my God! Like barcode.
Yeah, and then you would use this thing here, and I guess you would this thing right here, and you would do this. I guess you would like this. It looks like here's what you do. You'd lay this.
It's almost like Braille.
It is. So you'd lay this over it.
Okay, and then that keeps it in the tracks.
And then this keeps it in the tracks, and then you. So. Mine doesn't.
Strip reader?
Huh?
Kazan strip reader? It was like a full page thing.
I don't know. I have one of them. This is bizarre. It's just nuts. But anyway, that's what
I mean,
is.
that was kind of an innovative way to get the entire program listing on one page and make it to where if you're too lazy to type, you don't have to. You can kind of scan it.
You wouldn't have errors.
So you get it Commodore, and then I guess you got a particular version of the book, depending on whether you got a Commodore or because I know they made this for a couple different platforms.
Wow.
So, yep. Anyway, that's what it looks like.
That's pretty cool.
Anyway,
it's different.
It is. Put it back here. So I'm not sure what this is. Looks like some sort of homebrew, something or other. Let's see, Parsec research. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
I like the case it's in.
Yeah, really. Very professional.
Nice clear case.
And there's a sound expander for the Commodore. This is a Zoom floppy. So this allows you to hook your 1541 disc up to a Mac or PC. And then this right here is a retro replay. It's kind of a freezer cartridge. Back in the day, Commodore had a lot of you could play a game and then you could push one of these buttons and it would take an image. I think they have one of these for the Dragon, right? That's the Dragon Data has that capability where you can push a button and it'll take a snapshot of everything that's running in the computer.
Okay, like how an emulator can save your state and then roll back.
Correct. And then everybody's favorite disk launcher.
To make a flippy.
That's right. This is a an Indus GT. So this is a Commodore version of the Indus GT. I don't know if they made. I don't think they made one of these for the Coco, but this one's a 5 1/4 inch floppy drive. It's got a track.
That one's fitted with your Jiffy DOS.
Oh, it is? Cool.
I think Indus also made those for the Atari 800.
Yep, they made them for the Atari.
Hey, and it's got a clear lid.
It's got a cool lid.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
So there's a 1581 drive for the Commodore right there. Okay, there you go. Oh, okay, there you go. There's another one. So this tells you the difference in size.
Oh wow.
There you go. So this is a 128. Somebody's heavily modded this one. They've got a hard drive, CMD 40 meg hard drive, and I don't know what some of this other stuff is, but looks like it's been pretty heavily modded.
But technically a 128D because they have the disk drive built in.
You're right. This is a 128D. Yep. This is a this is what they call the cost reduced version. This is a 128D CR. So there's another version of this was available only in Europe. That's a plastic case. 120D, and it's got a carrying handle on it. This one does not. So,
kind of like the Apple IIc.
Is that a 1581?
Yeah. Yes, it is. That's a 1581 right there.
That's a 3.5.
And this is a 1571. So
double-sided.
Yep. MFM, both of them MFM drives. 800K for the 3.5 and 360K for the 5 1/4.
The 1571 could read IBM diskettes.
It could.
Also, they're in a CPM format too.
So looks like there's just a bunch of different kinds of monitors. Looks like this is just like a walkthrough history here.
Wow.
So this is the ubiquitous 1702 monitors. And then looks like they got some other monitors. This one looks a lot like the CM8.
Yeah, it does.
So I think CM8 was probably made by Magnavox.
Same.
Okay.
Actually, probably.
And here's a
Amber.
Yep, Amber and a Mac. It looks like a Mac monitor, an Apple II monitor,
or Apple II GS monitor, possibly.
Yeah,
it is. Okay.
Yep. Got the Apple logo on it. Yep.
Not the right size for the Apple II GS.
Yeah, except it's probably a composite monitor, so probably like the 2C color.
That could be.
Buy yourself some swag here.
Yeah, you got Commodore swag.
Get yourself a travel mug for $12, but if you really want it, you can get yourself an 8-inch Triniton monitor for $100 right there.
Wow.
It's a boat anchor of a monitor.
Classic security monitors are used.
Wow, that's a cool looking monitor.
Yeah, it is.
Some Amiga stuff, some buttons, bunch of
clear
stickers.
Window stickers and stuff. Yeah,
window clings and whatnot. And
is that a Commodore laptop right there?
I don't know if it is or not. No, it's on its power box. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's an Apple PowerBook G4 running Morph OS, which is an Amiga looking. It looks like Amiga OS, and it's somewhat compatible with Amiga software.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
The Morph OS, huh?
And it runs on the iMac, the iBook. No, what am I thinking of? The Mac Minis. The Mac Mini, of course.
So
neat.
I have a G4 Mac
and the G4 PowerBook.
There you go.
And then they have custom Power PCs that run on.
Paul Fiscarelli has joined us, and Mikey has joined us too. So hi guys.
Cool.
That's a cool looking demo there.
Yeah, it looks like it's running off the Commodore. Looks like it's snapshots of
looks like motion capture stuff. Yeah.
So Jim, do you have a booth there, or
I do. Yep. Yeah. So this is showing off the Turbo Chameleon which is this unit right here. This is a 4 megahertz CPU accelerator for the Commodore 64. So that's that one, Cycle Exact. I'll get you a little bit of the specs here. So 16 meg RAM expansion unit, 4 meg GRAM, dual 41 emulation, VGA out, 1 or 2 SIDs, 4 megahertz accelerator, and then keyboard, mouse.
This is kind of like the thing Mark Marlette's been trying to make for a while, the Super Coco board.
Correct. Yeah, that would be it. Yep.
It's impossible to buy, though. At least it was the last time I checked.
Yeah, it is. It's not available yet.
And they're like $300. Is that the one that comes from like Germany or something like that too?
Yes, this is from individual computers. Okay. Oh yeah, I thought you were talking about the Super board. Yeah, it's hard to get, but they are selling them. It's just I don't know what the availability is right at the moment. This is a Coco SDC type drive. So got your SD card and your buttons and whatnot.
I have one like that. Those are nice.
And this is the Mist, which I think you can run. I'm surprised you can't do a Coco on it.
Well, Roger Taylor's doing one called the Mr. Coco.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you won't be able to soon because the Mist was discontinued and it's being replaced with an open source project called Mister, and that's where they're building.
Okay.
Yeah, Roger's working on the Mister one. Got it. Yeah, so the Mist was originally designed to emulate the Atari ST, but there's also like you can do like an Amiga 500, Amiga 1000 emulation on this. Yes, some guys in my Florida Retro Club have got these too. It's a pretty cool little project. Yeah, cool.
So this is so Tim's got his Tim Waits here, and he's got his booth. It's right there, and this is what he's showing off at the show. He's got one of these. It's a card or a badge. It's a badge. You can hang it, and it's got a Arduino and a screen, and you can plug it into your Commodore, and you open up a terminal program, and you can change the text on the screen.
Okay.
Selling these for $25.
That's not bad. That Coco Fest was trying to do something like this, right?
Yeah.
Well, but then feature creep kicked in, right? And they needed to run OS 9 and have a 6309 and super board and sound chip.
It did. I think I may have busted it.
Shh, back away. We didn't see anything.
Can't prove anything.
Yeah. Oh, maybe the battery just got disconnected. That looks like a battery pack.
Here, Tim's got another one he's going to show us right here.
Okay.
Like the video footage.
Oops.
We just lost your Go for Retro there. You're back. Okay,
There you go.
Tim Wait.
Yep. So,
What are we waiting for?
That's cute. So that's pretty cool. That you can do
Yeah,
that.
you get different font sizes and styles too.
So if you guys let me know if you want one, he's selling them here. I guess he's over here. This is his booth. Cool. Do you have an electronic version of this? Can you email it to me? I'll send it to him.
That's neat.
So, there we go. Yeah, here's all his stuff he's working on. And got some more machines, 128 machines set up there, 80 column. There's another 64.
Yeah, you just can't find a CD32, which was an Amiga in like a game console case.
Yeah, that's true. I did right there.
Yeah, it was kind of an Amiga 1200. Yeah.
And they're very expensive when you can find them, and they're very hard to get. I don't think they were ever sold in the United States. They're mostly a European device.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
There you go. There's I can't go up to the front yet because they're not finished with
No, that's fine.
the presentation, but there's some other stuff up there, and I probably need to recharge the battery. It looks like all this use of the camera and whatnot.
We'll take what we can get right now. This is cool stuff.
Yep.
And we don't want to be disruptive or disrespectful of what's going on up there either. So
Richard, that's my booth right there. right at the far end, right there where the projector is.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Where the line starts with the RMAs, right?
That's right. That's right.
That last computer on the left is a Commodore PET, one of the first computers.
Oh yeah, the one that the lid opens up like the hood to a car.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you put me on mute because I'm gonna walk up there, but I'm gonna show you a picture. This is a later PET. This is a model 8032 PET. So this is a 32K 80 column PET. But I'll have you put me on mute, and I'm gonna walk up. I'm gonna show you the first PET was a 2001 PET with a 8K, so 32, and it has a very crappy keyboard. So put me on mute, and I'll walk
Okay,
up.
when you just wave your hand in front of the phone when you're ready for us to unmute you. Okay.
Oh, okay.
There was a Commodore PET in one of the Star Trek movies in Captain Kirk's San Francisco apartment.
I heard
that in the back by the window.
I heard that William Shatner was given that PET and like a VIC-20 and stuff when he was doing the advertisements for Commodore. That's where he got those. It's part of his compensation.
There you go.
Look at that. That's the original PET with the cassette on it. Yeah.
Yep.
With the cash register keyboard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, but it was a programmable computer.
Yeah. One of the guys in my Florida Retro Club brought one of those. Vince. That's neat. Power distribution unit there. Commodore brand power distribution. This electricity brought to you by Commodore.
That's right.
Curtis says what in reference to the PET, he goes with that tiny useless space bar.
That's right. That's right. It was. All right. Well, I'm going to shut this down for a little bit, but I'll stay on voice.
Okay. Sounds good. Excellent. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. So that was live footage from the Commodore Retro Expo, and good stuff. And so we got a few people in the live chat who are a little more familiar with Commodore than I am personally. So Red, I can't even read your name here properly, but it's Red Rumloa. I don't know. I can't read. But yeah, if you want to, those of you who are watching us right now who are maybe newer to our program, maybe chime in and say hi and tell us what like your real name is, because I don't speak screen names. I don't understand everybody's handle, but say, hey, my name is Bob, and I'm from whatever, Wisconsin, where we are, and tell us a little bit about who you are, and thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate having some new viewers here to our little show here. And Jim, I can't thank you enough for offering to give us some of that footage. So what do you guys think of what you just saw there? That looks pretty cool, huh?
My name is Jason. I'm from Ohio, and I'm a retroholic.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Where's the coffee?
Yeah, Mikey's here. Hey, Mikey. Paul Fiscarelli's here. Hey, Paul. We got 21 people watching us live right now. I think Nick Marota's here. Everybody say hi to Nick Marota.
Nick Marota.
Hi,
yeah.
Nick Marota.
We got 898 Dofo, Doffo. We have Ken Eder is here.
Dofo.
Red Rum Low. I think of that The Shining, right? Red Rum.
Yeah,
Red Rum. Yeah. Curtis Boyle's here. Red Rum is here. Nick Marota's here. Disney Saints fan is here. Hey, how are you, Disney Saints fan? And 898 Dofo is here, and Red Rum is here. David Ladd stopped by. It's twice in one night. Hello, David Ladd.
Got your 3 yet?
All right.
David Ladd.
Drive wire.
Hey, Grant Leighty has joined us in the panel. Paul Fiscarelli's here. Mikey's here in the live chat. So, yeah, we got some people here. Dan Shepard just chimed in.
And what's the topic tonight?
The topic is Grant Leighty. What sex is he going to be next week? So, what's everybody drinking tonight? So when we do After Dark, we're usually drinking live on the air. Just make sure you drink responsibly. My hangover is sponsored by Captain Morgan's Private Stock, so that's what I'm drinking tonight. I don't know what you guys are drinking.
David Ladd. That.
What's that?
David Ladd would probably second that. He likes Captain
Yeah.
Morgan's.
Maybe a little too much.
Captain
Coke
Morgan
Zero.
and Dr. Pepper. Yum, yum.
Coke Zero.
Yeah, so I don't have Coke, but my daughter's like, "Oh, you could just use Pepsi." I'm like, "Ew, that's gross. You don't mix rum and Pepsi. They don't go."
These kids just don't know.
Pepsi and rum tastes fine to me.
You'd have Diet Mountain Dew and frickin' rum.
So do you take half water, half Dr. Pepper, and then put the rum in it?
Oh no, all the water's gone and it's all replaced with rum.
Okay, yeah, the David Ladd is half water and half Dr. Pepper, similar to like a Arnold Palmer that's, half iced tea, half lemonade.
Yeah.
Just for those who don't know.
So somebody who we don't have on the program all the time, Scott is with us. And Scott, I don't know if you mind sharing with us a little bit of your past, present, and future as far as like what systems did you use back in the days when 8 bits was new? What are you doing now for your retro collection? And maybe even if you want to share with us who you work for, what you do for a living, stuff like that. I know this is all short notice, but whatever you feel like sharing publicly, by all means, please do.
No problem. So when I was 5 years old, I got a Timex Sinclair 1000.
Yay.
Which was great for the 30 minutes it would work before the keyboard ribbon would unplug from the motherboard. It wasn't all that great, but I was a 5-year-old and a computer was the most amazing thing in the world, so it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And after my dad sent it back to the company like 5 times and then repaired it himself like 2 or 3 times, he put it in a box and I didn't see it again. But not long after that, he got a Coco 1. And that came with the best programming guide I've ever read.
Oh, yeah.
Program in BASIC. And then I had a cassette tape, but it didn't really work for me. Getting high enough quality cassette tapes that I could actually afford as about a 6 or 7 year old was near to impossible. So sometime around that time, my dad figured out that buying an Apple II Plus with a floppy disk drive hooked to it was cheaper than buying just the floppy drive for the Coco at Radio Shack. And so that's what I had until I was like a junior in high school. Programmed on it a bit, but because it had a floppy drive and I got a collection of games, mostly played games. But I was totally hooked on computers, went to college and took a CS degree. Started out in electrical engineering, but found out I don't like hardware. And so I was taking computer science as a minor, so I just switched to that as a major. And then got out of college and got a job at Microsoft, where I am still employed.
Nice.
I kept a lot of the computers I had when I was young. I don't have that original Coco because my dad would sell off one computer to buy a newer computer. There was an upgrade, so we sold off the Coco 1 and got a Coco 2.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the line, we got a Coco 3, but it was non-working, so he got it really cheap. And we had multiple computer repair people look at it and were unable to make it do anything. So I read through the technical reference manual and decided that I couldn't break it any more than it already was. Opened it up, pushed around on a few things. I kind of had an idea that based on the fact it came up with a green screen and nothing else, that it had something to do with the gimme. Not that I really had an idea what the gimme did, but like always, it was socketed, so you push it into the socket tight to make sure it works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, the computer came back to life and has worked ever since. Also along the same lines, we sold off the Apple II Plus and got an Apple IIc Plus. And I still have that as well. And then as I got to be an adult and had actual money to buy things, I've gotten a number of other computers. I have a stack of Commodore 64s because 3/4 of them on the market are broken. Got the most broken computer I have ever dealt with.
Wow.
I got some Amigas, which are less broken, but still not a great track record with those. I have a pile of different Apples just because I really like them. I used them a lot when I was young. I have a stack of Coco 3s that I got through a really good deal on Craigslist. Pretty much, I got some TI 99s. Pretty much any of the 8-bit computers that I knew about when I was young and thought were interesting. I have one of them now because I was able to. And it's a lot of fun getting the modern hardware that you can mate up with those older computers to make them were unimaginable in the day. The fact that I have 32 gigabytes of space to store Coco software on and have it all accessible at the same time with a Coco SDC is just amazing. So that pretty much covers it, I think.
Cool, cool. Well, thanks for being here. We certainly appreciate having you. I know you're in a different time slot than us. Are you in like the Seattle, Washington area?
Yeah, that's correct. So I'm on Pacific.
Okay, there you go. Well, and Disney Saints fan says I'm having a John Dolly, which is Arnold Palmer with vodka. That sounds interesting, right?
Tell you what I'm drinking too. I have a fine Washington craft beer.
Ah, nice, nice, nice. All right, so we got some mysteries unraveled with some of these screen names here. These are some guys from my Florida Retro Club who are much more Commodore. And dude, I'd love to have you guys join us on the call. Maybe we can try to get you in here. So Jim Farley is the Red Rum Lola. I've met Jim at the one of my Florida Retro Clubs, and so Delvaux is Rodolfo, who I think I met earlier this year as well. So these are some guys. I remember when I first met Jim, I think it was in February, he was showing off that $300 German upgrade to the Commodore, which was a pretty cool product. And so you guys just posted your group that you're in, a Commodore C64 128 group. I don't know if you guys want to share this out with them, or maybe when it's done to share the replay. I'm not sure how much more live footage we're going to get. That's to be determined. But if anybody's watching this and wants to share this out in a retro group that might find this interesting, by all means. Cool beans. Mark Overholzer's an Apple guy, but you know a little bit about Commodores too, right? And you said you own a couple Commodores, Mark?
Yeah, I bought. My dad was a high school teacher, and one of his students got into Commodores, set up a Commodore BBS on his C64 back about 1980.
Wow.
And when he wanted to upgrade to the Commodore C128, he sold his SX, which was a portable, and I bought it from him in like 1986. So I've been a Commodore for a long time. Most of my family has Commodores, so anyway. But since then, I've gathered 2 or 3 more Commodore C64s, a couple C128s, 1541s, 1571s, a couple VIC-20s. So yeah, I have almost as much Commodore stuff as I do Coco stuff.
Wow, that's cool. It's on my wish list. You know, I think one of the things that Scott was mentioning, when you get a little bit older and you've got the money that you didn't have when you were a kid, and nowadays you can get things sometimes considerably, sometimes more, sometimes less. But, you know, like as Scott mentioned, he has a TI. I've got a TI 99 4A, which I haven't taken out of the box yet. And I think I got it for $40 in the box. And so I'm like, hey, I'll open this thing up and play with it one of these days and see what it's all about, you know. But I could not have afforded one of those when they were new because those things were $500, you know.
The last Commodore system I got was given to me by one of my coworkers from a friend of his. It was a Commodore C64, 1541 to 1702 monitor, a super CPU cartridge, which is a speed up for it, which I guess.
Wow.
Those are like unobtainium and expensive.
Wow.
And then a bunch of software has been waterlogged, but hey, you know, it was free. So.
I know we're all kind of happy and giddy with our Cocos and some of the hardware that we have, but the hardware for the Coco really is like a drop in the bucket compared to some of the modern enhancements that are available for some of the larger, more established systems like the Atari community, Commodore community, Apple. I'm sure a lot of them have got like a lot more hardware add-ons than we do. Like I know the Apple's got that CPU that goes up to like 16 megahertz. There's just tons of stuff for the Apple II. So
the thing is that the Western Design Center, who Bill Mensch, who worked for Commodore and back in the day, he still makes CPUs. They're 14 megahertz. I mean, you still buy them.
Wow.
So
like a brand new 6502 that's stock running at that speed?
Yep. Or 65816, yeah. Both.
Yeah. And is it pin compatible and everything else with?
Yeah, those are, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Will the old system board actually run those processors, or is there like a limiting on?
They'll only run at 1 megahertz or whatever.
Okay. So you need something to go in between to supercharge the CPU, huh?
Yep. But
okay.
They don't have to, you don't have to make it out in FPGA. They actually
right. It's new stock.
Yep.
They won't go in place of the Commodore 64 ones because they are different.
Yeah, the 6510 has got some extra stuff, but Jim Brain is actually working on the board to make that happen.
And working on one for the +4 as well.
Yeah, and James, you've got a history of a lot of different machines, right? You've slept in more than one bed. When it comes to systems, if you've had lots of relationships.
Well, this is definitely an After Dark show, isn't it?
Let's go right to the After Dark part.
Well, I do have my 8-inch floppy.
Oh!
Whoa! Look at that.
Oh, baby.
What are we looking at?
Mr. David Ladd.
I'm going to unmute you, Jim, if I can. Maybe you've muted yourself. I can't unmute you. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. This is a 6502 to 6510 adapter that I've developed. It works. So you plug the Western Design Center 16 here, and you plug this into your Commodore.
So that allows the faster CPU to work.
It does. Here's the actual CPU right here. So here's
doesn't it just allow you to replace those rare, can't find them anymore, CPUs?
Well, this one actually, this is the, I made 3 different versions of it. So let me get them and line them up here real quick. Hold on a second.
The 6510 had a few weird things, like it had tri-state ability.
Yeah, it did.
It had an I/O port.
Yeah, the first 2 bytes of memory locations.
So these are the 3 things. So the one right here, this one is for the 6509, which was this is the unit that was in the B128. We don't have a B128 here at the show. And then this one here, this one here is for the 6510. So that's the chip that's in the 64. And then this one right here, which the chip is on it right now, this was for the 7501 that's in the +4. I saw some +4s right here, I think. But if not, I can show you a picture in a little bit.
And those are hard to find.
Yeah.
The +4 ones. So you'll sell a few of those.
And this is a brand new chip. This is a brand new. It says -14, but Bill is confirmed they'll go up to 20 megahertz without cooling.
Okay.
So
that's pretty slick.
And that's a 65. Hold on. This is the 6502, and then this over here is the 65816. So this is the 16-bit version of it.
I'm trying to get you full screen, Jim. I'm not having a hard freaking time here. There we go. Got you full screen.
Yeah. Here, now I can flip it around. Let me see if
do you have any additional RAM on that one?
There we go. This one does. This one has 2 meg of RAM on it.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah,
so is that just addressed up above the 64K?
Yes, it is.
Because Commodore owned MOS Technologies, they could spin new CPUs. That's why Commodore 64 has a variant, and the +4 has a variant, and the B128 has a variant. And so now, because of course they're unobtainium, what do you do? And they'll go bad. You're stuck.
Yeah, but everything that's on those particular ones you could add externally. So
yeah. Hey, James and Rodolfo, I posted in the live chat the link to the Zoom call that we're on. If you guys want to join us on Zoom, Zoom is a free client you can install. It's kind of like Skype. It runs on Mac, it runs on Linux, it runs on Windows, it runs on mobile. Since you guys are some Commodore experts and knowledgeable folks, it would be great to have you guys join us on the call here too and chime in. They were saying that Jim Brain, James Farley is saying, Jim Brain, please do it. I saw your 65816 project, a 128 version, please. All right, so we got some requests for some more Retro Innovations products there.
Sounds like it. Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds more like an RMA type of situation, but just saying.
You're just nuts, Richard. You're not getting enough returns.
You don't. Okay, James, add it on your phone. Do you have a smartphone? You can add the Zoom client on a smartphone. You can get the app for it. But that's up to you. If you There's many ways to join us. So here's what I need to do. I think I need to refill my beverage as well as drain the main vein. So we're going to take a quick commercial / potty / top off your beverage break here. We'll be back in about a minute and a half and 2 minutes. So don't go anywhere. Retro Talk will resume after these messages. And thank you all for being here. We'll be back in just a few.
Hi, this is Rick Adams, and I'm the author of Temple of Brahm, Shanghai, and now Bomb Threat, and you're listening to StevieStrow on CoCoTALK.
Hey, this is Bruce Moore, author of Force of Doom, and you're watching the original gamer, StevieStrow.
Only the bravest souls enter. Only the most cunning return. Defeat innumerable monsters to ransom the king's scepter, stolen by the evil wizard. Your sword, shield, and wits are your only allies. Pray you find a magical inn as your only respite in the forest of doom.
For the tiny color computer 1, 2, and 3.
November 2017, if you dare.
My fellow Americans, Australians, Canadians, Europeans, and all of you ands, I'm calling on all y'all to help us make the world great again by visiting the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com, where you can get yourself a coffee mug like this with a little cute cartoon character that says, I'm a... All right, how we doing? Are we ready to come back after this? A coffee mug like this with a...
Did you drain everything okay?
That says, I did not drain my David Ladd yet, no. So, a deluxe travel mug like this with the CoCoTALK logo on it.
Ready to come back right after the switcheroo ad.
A DVD like this with over 2 hours of
Has one run?
It is time.
We can do that.
No. Make the world great again.
All right, we'll run a switcheroo ad.
Retro merchandise and Coco nostalgia. So please visit 8bit256.com and let's make the world great for the color computer. Thank you very much.
It's a Radio Shack.
Thank you very much, my fellow Americans.
I remember that Christmas. Dad gave
I
my
did not
first
have
shortwave
relations
radio
with
from
that
Radio
woman.
Shack. What memories. This Christmas, we got our son's Color Computer 3 from Radio Shack. It hooks right up to our TV and was on sale for less than $130. The Color Computer 3 makes learning fun. Jimmy even lets me use it for word process when he isn't playing computer games. Lucky I still got my shortwave.
Save $70 on the sale-priced Color Computer 3, only at Radio Shack.
Only at Radio Shack. Oh my. Thank you. You're too kind. Thank
Coming at you.
Coming at you. That's right. So we also have with us, since you mentioned the switcheroo, listen, we may not have a $300 German accelerator that's got, VGA out, PS2 interfaces, 16 gigahertz processor, and 43 gigawatts of RAM, or anything like that, like what the Commodore has. But what we do have is we do have an RGB to SCART cable that has a switch that allows you to switch from RGB to composite. Just that easy. We have the creator of the said product with us here, Jason, the Coco Man Reichert, taking time away from his busy schedule. Thank you for being here, Jason. So we're going to go ahead and play an ad for the switcheroo just so everybody can see what Willis is talking about here. So hold on one second.
Switcheroo, the RGB to SCART solution for the Color Computer 3. Use your Coco with a modern display. Go from RGB to composite with just the flip of a switch.
Boom.
The switcheroo. Artifact colors do not work in Australia. Hashtag irony. CoCo3SCARTcable.com.
There you have it. So, ordinarily, when you try to run a game that requires artifact colors, they show up as black and white stripes. So with this miracle invention, you flip a switch and those colors will show up. However, they will not show up in Australia. Now, Richard Lorbieski is still with us too. And again, listen, we don't have all of the amazing hardware that the Commodore has, but we've got a few products. And one of the things that Richard Lorbieski has created for us, a lot of people stopped at 512K RAM upgrades. Richard Lorbieski said, listen, I laugh at 512K. I laugh in the face of 512K. I'll see your 512s. I'll raise you 1 meg. I'm going to double down on 2 megs. And so Boyson Technologies has brought us the Boomerang. And it is actually, it's somewhat popular with the hipsters these days. So here's a little promo for the Boomerang. Push your Coco 3 to the limits. Boyson Tech. Boomerang mania is real. So, if you've got a Coco 3 and you want to take it to the next level, there you got it. Hey, Rodolfo has joined us. Hello, Rodolfo. How are you? Can you hear me now? All right. Well, we'll wait and see if Rodolfo
Hey,
comes
but
in.
do you have your Boomerang E2 yet?
I don't know.
You got your Coco 3 yet?
Got your Boomerang yet? So hopefully Rodolfo will chime in. He's a guy who knows a thing or two about the Commodore. Looks like he's. Are you muted, Rodolfo?
That's right.
Hello, Rodolfo. Can you hear us?
Oh, hold on. Let me mute the actual live stream. Right.
That might help.
All right, there he goes. I think.
We hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. You got James with you?
I don't actually. I'm actually on the other side of the United States. I'm actually from near Reno, Nevada, and he's all the way from Florida.
Oh, so you weren't at one of our Retro Club meetings? Maybe I'm getting you confused with somebody else.
Yeah. No, sorry, and I apologize. No, I think that might have been someone else. No.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so but you are a partner in crime with him on a Commodore 64 128 Facebook group.
Yeah, yep, correct. Again, it's just kind of a venture. Oh, by golly, I was in a college. I think I started back in like 2006. I'd be lucky, 2-3 people out of the year would join. Now it's literally probably on like a daily basis, 10, 20 plus members every time. Granted, there's some bots, but yeah, it's crazy. Nope, it's just a kind of a joint venture that we'll just kind of oversee it, and group's pretty laid back. It's a pretty straightforward Commodores and have fun.
Excellent. So let me ask you this: based on so was the Commodore your first computer?
Yes, correct. The Commodore 128D, and I frankly remember my oldest brother buying it. I believe he picked it up at a yard sale for about $150. Granted, this was probably around 1988, 1989, somewhere around there. And,
okay.
And that was essentially my first computer. And me going into elementary, I kind of had the of course, they were filled with like your Apple IIe computer. So I guess I'm more open to Apples. And now actually Jim or James there in Florida, who was actually kind of pushing me into the Coco stuff. So then and that's why now I am kind of keeping an ear out for the Coco stuff, because like I never really knew that it was there, but then kind of looking into it, reading about it, and I'm like, okay, this is something that I can enjoy. Why not?
Sure. So, what did you experience? Kind of the fanboy System Wars, us versus them stuff back then,
Oh, okay. So I think the peak of that, I probably would have been too young. Granted, in your 80s, because I was actually born in 86.
Okay.
But I was I guess you could say you're a diehard Commodore Amiga dude up until about the mid 2000s, and then I kind of dropped off on it, and then that's when I kind of veered away and started back into the Commodore 64/128 side of it again. So
cool. Yeah, so I have memories. They're not all pleasant ones, but especially in the early '80s, everybody was really much like in a camp somewhere, and everybody was kind of loyal and diehard to their system. So you had the Apple Nazis, and then you had the Atari people, and you had the Commodore people, and it was always us versus them. Our system is better than yours. A bunch of silverback gorillas beating their chest for dominance, and so. And that's just kind of how it was back then. Everybody was very, I guess it'd be like kind of like college sports too, like, the different schools and the rivalries and stuff. So, so what's your take on it now? Now that we're older, hopefully a little bit wiser, is your group, even though your group is about the Commodore, are the people in the group, are they sympathetic and supportive of other systems and things like that?
Okay. Yes, definitely. Actually, of course, like you were saying towards the beginning, I'm sure, you did have your camps, I only hear stories of like how much that is. I mean, you literally probably had groups of kids within your grades where these are the Apple people, these are the Commodore people, etc. So that for me probably would have been a different take and feel, growing up in school. But then us growing up, or actually me in school during the 90s, I don't think there was ever really separation, so to speak, as far as computers, because you've already had Windows and stuff. Yeah, you probably had Windows, Mac, blah blah blah, that kind of nonsense and stuff like that. But now, yes, the group is directed just for Commodore 64/128. I mean, I try not to push, and I know many have gotten to me about well, you should allow people talking about the Commodore Amiga. I'm like, yeah, I could, but then it starts to take it for
right. So if you want to stay on topic, stay on topic with what the group is about, so it doesn't start to fragment or dilute.
Exactly, dilute.
But I think most of us here, we're knowledgeable of other systems, and maybe owned other systems back then. But I think a lot of us now in the retro hobby, I think a lot of people have a lot of hands in more than one cookie jar, and I know, and for us, most of us here, the reason this show was started off being dedicated to the CoCo, right? It was CoCoTALK, but we're broadening our horizons. Now, the color computer was basically the redheaded stepchild of the 8-bit systems. It got no love, it got no respect. It was, it was the underdog. And so if everybody who had the Ataris and the Apples, and if you had a Commodore 64 with a SID chip and with 16 colors and sprites and stuff, the games on there, like I remember all my friends, I remember seeing that game Rambo on the C64. I was so jealous and how awesome it was. I'm like, oh man, my computer can never do that. But, there are certain systems that they had better hardware, and to this day I have a strong disliking for most Apple people, just because I had a guy in junior high school who was a real snotty kid. He's like, oh, I've got an Apple, it's the best computer in the world, and I'm the best person in the world, and I'm better than you, blah blah blah, so it's just like so to this day I've got a very strong disliking for hardcore Apple people. But Mark Overholser's okay, so
actually looked over at a Mark just kind of holding himself in disbelief, like okay, so I mean, just kind of to I guess to add to what you've asked earlier about us, how people are probably different in today's thing. Well, me also our elementary school had the Apple IIs. That's why I like to this day still have lacking. I mean, granted, I'm looking here in the back, I have an Apple II GS set up sitting next to the Commodore Amiga 1200. They're not being used, but they're still sitting there. But then it's like yeah, I think to me, if you're, I guess you can say yes, you're like hardcore to a point where you appreciate it, you like the system, but then you're not so closed. But then if you're super hardcore / Amiga users, no, just kidding. Anyways, Amiga users, handful of them. Well, they're so dedicated that they're closed-minded to a point where, like, they're not quite as willing to actually try out the new stuff and stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, towards the beginning there, oh by golly, I think I was so against MorphOS for the longest time, where I'm like, well, it ain't the true Amiga, then what's this guy doing here? But as me growing up and growing older, I finally had a chance to try it a handful of years ago, and I'm like, wow, this ain't really that bad. So,
yeah.
But fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Amiga is a pretty badass system. We gotta recognize that, acknowledge that of the 16-bit systems. The Amiga could have been a PC killer. It really could have been. It in many ways, the Mac kind of took off as like for graphics designs and publishing and digital production, but the Amiga was just as capable. And had a lot of things the Mac didn't for music and sound and graphics, and like the video toaster, making non-linear video editing and stuff like that. The Amiga was pretty impressive system.
And it's a lot better system than the Mac, but they just never got all the software.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm not, by any means discrediting as far as, well, if you like the Amiga. No. Again, I was, hardcore Amiga, like, trust me, like anybody else, me, growing up in the 90s, I was like, the Amiga has it all. But yeah, as far as like the 68K Amiga stuff, oh yeah, by golly, that thing's awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thing's great.
Yeah. And I forgot who was one of our more recent After Dark shows. They were really explaining this to me to a way where I kind of understood, where it almost seemed like both Apple and Commodore had a similar thing where they started to kind of like just ignore the 8-bit systems and in favor of the 16-bit system. So when the Mac kind of became this thing, Apple just really stopped caring about the Apple II line and the Apple II GS and things like that. And I believe there's a similar parallel to the Commodore line, where once Commodore had its 16-bit fleet of ships, they were less concerned about the 8-bit. And I think there's some people in those 8-bit camps that feel somewhat shunned by the maker,
Well,
leave you behind.
I worked for an Amiga dealer, and we didn't have anything to do with the 8-bit. And as far as we could tell, Commodore, we'll sell you that through Fred and Meyer and all the all these discount chains, but they really didn't want to do anything with it.
Yeah, man, that's just, and growing up, I mean, I wish when I was a kid that I would ever have seen a Commodore Amiga in store. Not really, just because I think by the time I would even know what Computer A or Computer B is, well, of course, their bankruptcy in '94. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing the demos. So the Commodore 64 had a big demo scene. Amiga had a great big demo scene. We got a guy in our midst, Simon Jonassen in Denmark, who's doing some CoCo demo scene stuff. But the CoCo was historically not too big in the demo scene. I think there was a few people in the 90s who did stuff. So Stockmaster did something. Was it Greg Zumwalt, who else? It was one of the other guys that did some of those CoCo 3 demos. That was all after I got out of it. But there's a couple guys who did some CoCo 3 demos, but I don't know that we had anything like what the Commodore scene had. But I think Simon's trying to stir some of that stuff up.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think what actually got me hooked as far as the CoCo stuff to this day was, I think Jim there in Florida, he actually sent me the YouTube video where someone was demonstrating the video playback of like the Star Wars intro, I believe.
Oh yeah, that was John Linville of the CoCo Crew podcast. He created a media player on the CoCo 3.
Nope, perfect. Yeah, like I said, I saw that, immediately hooked, and that's kind of set the venture for the CoCo. I myself don't own one yet, but time to time I will keep my eye out just if something shows up. So
yeah. So here Curtis has said Sockmaster, Von Cato, and Alan DeCock had done some CoCo 3 demos. Yeah, so there's Sockmaster's bouncing ball in the background there that Jason's playing. Yeah, and so that was a big thing, right? For whatever reason, I don't know how this started. But when the Amiga released its bouncing ball demo, that somehow became the benchmark. Can we all get a bouncing ball in our demo? So it was like everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses.
That is awesome. That actually looks pretty good from this end.
Yeah. So this is a fairly interesting thing because it's all trickery, right? So it's a lot of palette shifting and page flipping and stuff. So nothing's really moving. Right, but it looks like it does, and this is really pushing the limits because The Coco 3 can only do 16 colors on screen, but he's hacking the palettes at a scan line interval to get all 64 colors in the background and all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of software sorcery going on here.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's really impressive.
What a lot of people miss about the Amiga Boing demo isn't that getting the bouncing ball on the screen was that impressive, but the fact that you did it with very little processor overhead because of all of the special hardware in the Amiga was the impressive part of it.
Well, you could have the bouncing ball demo running, and you could have this little robot on the street running and something else running, and you could pull down the screens and show each one running at the same time.
Yeah, that was another really amazing thing about the Amiga is it was a preemptive multitasking OS back before any of us knew what that was.
Yeah.
Those geniuses.
Yeah. All right, so James is showing a C64 demo here, so let's see if we can get that going here. Hold on one second. Let me switch over. And we have a... hold on. I'm trying to get over to my full screen view here. Give me just a second here.
You're good. You're good.
Hey, we got another train.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. So here is Amiga Boing Ball on the C64. Let's see what this is all.
The old F1. There you go.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness. That's actually all right.
It's in slow-mo.
Yeah.
With real
Oh, it's speeding up.
Not bad for the old 1 megahertz, right?
Yeah. It's got physics. It's got some three-dimensionalism, some shadowing. The system just crashed. Blue screen of death. So.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's awesome. Yep, accurate.
How to use your joysticks. What are we going to see now? Is the demo still running? It's still running. Something else is going to happen here. Ooh, a Mandelbrot. Hey, James, look at this.
Yeah, but that's pre-rendered.
Almost looks like... ooh, look at that, huh?
Goes as it's doing it, or however.
Pre-rendered for your convenience.
So you don't have to sit and wait for 12 hours.
Ooh, this is a big one. That's what she said. Look at this.
Yeah. But, that's still, because I haven't seen the one that's running on the Coco there that Jason has. That's actually pretty impressive. I just didn't realize that, there's more demos out there than I probably have yet to find. So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like this is probably true in the Commodore scene and everything else too. As the machines have been around for as long as they have, people are really realizing what you can do with the hardware and how far you can push it. And so I think that's a pretty common thing. And even on the Atari 2600, there's a lot of new brews on the Atari. That there are games coming out for that now that had they been released back in the day, these things would have been like multi-million-dollar sellers,
Oh, yeah.
And so people are really pushing the existing hardware further than it was even conceived probably 30 years ago,
Oh, yeah, no doubt. But again, like I said, it's, I'm just glad and actually thank you and everyone else who's actually in here as well, all your viewers for actually having me because as well, just because I think you opening up that audience was probably like, is it a big step to whether someone else who hasn't yet know what a Coco was. Well,
right.
I'm kind of one of them where now you have other people from like different computers coming in here to at least talk for a little bit, but that also introduces us to the Coco as well. So it's really a win-win situation here. So pretty good.
Yeah. I think when you go to I'm in the Florida Retro Club and there's a lot of people with a lot of systems but we all get along now because we're older and wiser, hopefully. And we have a mutual respect for the machines.
Oh yeah.
Just in an abstract now because it's no longer, this is now me defending my turf.
Oh, no.
And and so this show that we're doing now that we're calling RetroTALK, this is like the generic version of CoCoTALK, and it was kind of my dream that we can get more people on here talking about more systems, and that dream is slowly becoming a reality because I think this format of people just geeking out talking about this old crap that we like.
Yeah.
I think there's enough of us who like doing this. You see that Jim is in Las Vegas right now. So there's at least 30 people who are willing to go to Vegas, because it's really hard to get people to go to Vegas usually, you know? So
no, for sure.
yeah. So you got to put some Commodores to get people to go to Vegas, because otherwise nobody would have a reason to go there. But 30 people went to Vegas to check out this Commodore thing. So there's an interest in this, and this show, we kind of always say that doing this show, it's kind of like being at a club meeting or being at a festival or a convention. It's just really gives us a chance to geek out. And you said you're in the Nevada area, right, Rodolfo?
Yep. Up here in northern Nevada. I think Las Vegas is still about 6.5 hours away. I did want it to, and then was hoping to make it to the CRX this year. Unfortunately, stuff kind of came up and I was unable to. But next year, I think me and there's a Jim there in Florida, we're actually going to try to both head on over to the CRX event next year. Hopefully, just throw some systems up. I think I might even take my Commodore Amiga 1200, take a 64, maybe like a PAL 64 unit or something, just kind of to give something so that even if someone's just curious, just play the thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be kind of a dream of mine too, that to be able to go to all these events around the world and be able to do these shows live from these events, kind of like what Jim is doing there now and stuff, but to be able to be there and report on them and interview people from these events, because there's so many events just in the United States. And so if we can't be there directly, we've got enough of us now. Like Jim's at Nevada. A couple of weeks ago, Mikey and Mark Overholzer were at VCF West in Silicon Valley, and they did some correspondence from there. Jason, who's doing the bouncing ball right now, he's done some live streaming from CorgsCon, which was the Columbus, Ohio Retro Gaming Society, and Hamvention, right? So there's enough of us now. And Nick Morenti's in Australia. He brought us some live footage from the Oz K-Fest a year or so ago. So it's kind of cool now that we've got this kind of global community and everybody's willing to share these events with us. The internet brings us together now too, which is kind of cool.
Yep, perfect, and that's awesome. And again, actually next time I'll hopefully find my webcam, because I had it somewhere. Because actually here in behind me, I do have the Apple II GS.
That'd be kind of cool to see.
Yeah, just like a background, of course, and just helps to talk, face to face, I suppose, instead of just some text on the old screen.
Yeah, are you a member of the Florida Retro Club group, or you just know James from your group?
Yeah, I just know him. What is it? Just know of it. I'm not actually from the area. I've actually been up here. Out here in Nevada. So yeah. So
okay, that's cool.
We're just out here. So again, but again, like I said, thanks for having me. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time. Actually, my 2.5-year-old son, he's probably gonna uppercut me soon if I don't tend to him.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us. I'll check out your group later, and I'll stop by and say hi.
Awesome.
In your Facebook group. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, and take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the show, and hope to talk to you all again. Take care.
Nice to have you. Take care.
See ya.
Jim Brain, you got any more groundbreaking footage for us, or anyone?
Cue the crickets.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. This whole Commodore thing is kind of neat. I remember, Nick, do you remember last year when you were at Oz K-Fest and the things they were doing there? They had that 16 megahertz Apple II accelerator board, and they had USB stuff and all kinds of stuff for the Apple.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting. And we had a few rare machines showing there as well.
Yeah. I like seeing stuff like that. I'm really hoping that VCF Midwest is going to be if it looks like some of these Commodore people that Jim was pointing to us will be at VCF, so I want to see that VR headset. That seems kind of cool, Yeah,
that is pretty cool. I know that there's Atari's 800 software that runs on it as well already, so that's cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Because essentially what you're doing is you're splitting the screen in half, and so you just have to write your software to create two similar but offset images of the same thing. So you could keep it kind of simple. It doesn't have to be like bleeding edge graphics, but just something that would play well. I would imagine wireframe stuff would play very well to this, and that'd probably be one of the easier things to do.
I don't know. Wireframe requires a lot of math to get those nice lines.
True.
Might be better to go with something chunky in one of the semi-graphics modes.
Yeah. But that's a neat project. And Bruce Moore's here says, "What's the topic?" Yeah. This episode of
like a good Coco project that if somebody got on it who does software, it'd be a real first for the platform.
Yeah. I like that touchscreen thing that Jim was showing off too. Can you imagine that, like a touchscreen on a?
That should be an easy software thing to rig up because it's probably a PS2 mouse implementation for that touchscreen.
And so essentially, you're just reading XY coordinates of where your pointer is.
I would think so. I mean, I'm speculating a lot.
Yeah. I had speculated too that this might actually work, and I don't know if Paul Thayer tried this, but Paul Thayer made the Timberman game, which is basically a port of a iPad or like a mobile app type retro style game, right? The guy's chopping down the trees. And so I was wondering if you had run like MAME on a computer that had a touchscreen, could you basically at that point touch enable a Coco game through the emulator? And I think that answer is yes. You know, if you just made the touchscreen register like a button press on either side or a joystick X and Y, you know, far left, hard left, hard right coordinate based on your touchscreen, you could kind of ghetto touch enable a Coco game through the emulator on a touchscreen PC. I know it's not real hardware, but it might be an interesting little thing to try, you know. I was thinking about doing something hacky too, where you know how the Xbox controller's got your two thumbsticks? Like through MAME, you could map those two thumbsticks as two different joysticks, and then you could even, like, I think, map up to the 4 buttons on an Xbox controller as the 2 different fire buttons on a Coco 3, and you could like make a custom game for the Coco that would use all of the knobs on an Xbox controller. You got 2 thumb knobs that are analog and 4 buttons, and that's definitely doable, but you have to map it all in MAME, you know, left stick, right stick, and buttons.
Map buttons to the keyboard.
But it would be kind of cool, you know?
Yeah, it would also be interesting to hook that same Xbox controller up through a microcontroller to the actual joystick ports on the Coco. And run that dual stick software on the actual hardware.
Yeah, now that would be more like a real Coco project at that point too. Yeah,
I've started the very beginnings of getting that to work. I've got my Xbox controller reading on my microcontroller, but then real life came into play and I didn't get further.
I think David Ladd was working on something too, to take a PS2, like a PlayStation joystick, and convert that to run through other things. David, you still with us?
I do remember him working on that project. It's very similar to how I was going to do it as well.
Yeah. I know he's done. There he is.
Not the PlayStation PS2, but PC PS2.
Oh.
Yeah, like a PS2 mouse.
I thought you were going to do some type of. I thought you were doing some type of PlayStation joystick controller adapter to Coco too.
Was eventually thinking about it, but I haven't gotten into it yet.
Ah, okay. But David does have a PS2 mouse to Coco adapter he's been working on.
If he ever figures out the microcontroller to Coco portion of that, grafting on all the various other types of controllers is not that hard. The USB to microcontroller part is pretty much solved with open source libraries.
Well, the part that from the microcontroller to the Coco, I've already been successfully using, haven't I, Mark?
Yes, and I have a couple of them. They work great.
You solved the problem you were having with the chip frying?
Yeah, I stopped using the I2C chip.
Gotcha. I'll have to talk to you then offline and get some info about that.
Yeah, cool. Very, very cool.
Luckily, there's a single chip that does the job.
One chip to rule them all.
That's
Jim Brain, are you going to be coming back to us, or is Jim... Can I unmute Jim? I cannot unmute Jim, so he is self-muted. He's got a self-induced mute on right now. Hopefully Jim will come back and we can get to see a little bit more of that event. But, you know, we'll take what we can get from that because that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed what you guys brought to Mark Overholzer, you and Mikey, what you brought back from VCF West.
Oh, yeah. That
was kind of cool. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do for VCF Midwest because Grant's my backup streamer. And both Grant and I are going to be there. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do a CoCoTALK live at the usual 2 o'clock time slot. I don't know what what any of the logistics are going to be. So that's all to be determined. But I do want to capture footage from VCF Midwest, even if it's not live. Red Rumlow, I can't pronounce your name, but that was Rodolfo. Just subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you for subscribing. So yeah, I do want to bring back some footage from VCF Midwest. Maybe we'll do something like this, but I don't know that I could be streaming the whole event. It's kind of to be determined. Now there was something cool that was posted on Facebook. I saw a little bit later this afternoon, but what do you got there, Mark Overholzer?
Oh, that's like the first version of David Ladd's PS2 to Commodore joystick, basically.
I see.
So it's got a 328p Atmel, and I don't remember which microchip one is on there, 49 something. But it's got
4922.
4922.
TTL.
Drive wire.
Okay, so Nick Morentis says he's got to go. Okay.
Thanks for being here. Anyway,
that's
I'll see
okay.
you next time, mate.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Nick.
See you later. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, Nick.
Oh,
it is next Tuesday there, you know.
Piece of hardware I'm a little bit surprised I didn't see at CRX is the Ultimate 64, which is basically an FPGA replacement motherboard for the Commodore 64 that implements everything that is a Commodore 64 and also adds to it the functionality of the U2 Plus, which is the Cycle Exact 1541 drive emulator. That's a board that I want to get as soon as I get my money from my fall bonus, just to have a super reliable C64 and the ability to have HDMI output from it.
Yeah, that's nice. That's kind of like the ColecoVision project that's going on right now, too. Hey,
sorry, what'd you
back.
need?
We're just checking in with you to see if you had anything else to show us or anything new and improved going on there.
Well, they did break the thing, so I can talk and walk around. So let me see.
Okay.
Real quick here. Yeah, I've got some.
Show us your booth too, if you want.
Hold on here. I'll be back in just a little bit.
All right.
Okay. Just give me a minute here.
No problem.
Okay. They're doing raffles right now, but so what do people want to see more of? I was gonna.
What were you just talking about, Scott? The Super FPGA motherboard replacement?
Yeah, that was the Ultimate 64 board. From
the Ultimate?
Or the U2 Plus. Do they have one of those there?
Yep. They do not have one here that I can see. I don't see any here, but I'll look. I don't.
That cartridge.
There's two of those. Which one you?
Chameleon is made by the same company, individual.
Yeah,
that makes a different.
That's true. And
board for the Commodore 64 called the C64 Reloaded.
Yeah, this particular unit right here is the same core. It's just a different form factor. They put it in a board that fits the Commodore 64. This is actually I just mentioned to point this out. This is a Commodore 64 Aldi because it's a really light case. Let me see if I can show you. See that color right there, and then here's one over here that's a darker color. This is the traditional dark, chocolate brown color.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
the Aldi units were
and this
sold
one,
in the store called Aldi, which you can see in the United States, but it's a German chain.
Yep.
And, There's a guy on YouTube named Yan Beta, and he talks about the Aldi Commodore 64 because his first Commodore 64 was one of the Aldi units. So he got another one from somebody, and he did a video on refurbishing it and getting it running.
Yep. So I can come up here.
Okay, cool. Let's see more.
There's that.
Your video is frozen.
Again.
Your video is frozen.
Oh, is it? Hold on. So is it coming back on?
Waiting. I don't see it yet.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
It's fine here, so.
It says your network bandwidth is low.
What's going on?
Okay, Rodolfo's asking, is John Farrell there at CRX show with his Cairo Flux setup?
Yes, he is. He's over. Yes, he is here, but he's not sitting at his desk right now. I saw him earlier today.
Might be a little off.
Let me see if I can switch to another.
But I just read that John McCain passed away.
And I don't know if Jim's still with us. Jim, are you still there? Jim's signal bars just went red.
Did anyone hear me?
Can you see me now? I heard you.
Okay.
I'm trying.
I guess that's why he stopped his treatment.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we see you.
Okay. So you see the video? Okay. I switched to another Wi-Fi access
Commodore
point or whatever.
64 is kind of similar to the CoCo in that there were so many different case variations for them. Like we had the original silver CoCo 1, then there was the white CoCo 1, and then there was the TDP 100, then the CoCo 2, and the CoCo 3. So Commodores had various different cases.
Yep. So this is what's called a first generation VIC-20. So it's got the squarish squashed keys that were common on the PET machine. So this is like a PET keyboard style. And then over here, it's got a 2-prong power connector. So it only feeds 9 volts into the unit, and then it converts the 9 volts to 5 volts inside. And then the other way you can tell is, it's hard to tell here, but I don't know, I could show it real good, but it's got instead of getting a multicolored bezel here, it's got the gold and black.
Okay. I like the clear cover for it.
Yeah, here we go. He took that off so we can see it a little better right here. Who's the names here? We got Bill Seiler. Who's this? Leonard Tramiel. So this is Jack Tramiel's son, and this is
Yash Kadakura. He is the designer and engineer
Yash.
of the X1000.
Okay, so this was the VIC 1001 designer, Japanese, and this is the very first style of label or whatever.
Yeah.
You can see it over here as well. This is a whole Commodore. So stand in front of it. So we're on RetroTALK, so you guys should get in the frame here. So yeah, so I'm not on a good microphone, but if you tell me, so I'll try and read your name. I don't have my glasses on, but Vincent Mazzei and Louis Mazzei. He must be red light related.
Yeah, he's my dad.
Okay, so we got father son here, and this is their whole VIC-20. This is their whole VIC-20 setup. So if you see, everything's a cream color. You got the 1540.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a 1541, but it's the cream colored 1541. And then you got this is a newer style C2N 1530 cassette type. The the first generation VIC-20, and then this is the 1525 printer, which was the second printer. This is a CoCoTALK 1000 VC printer. The first one was the 1515. So there's a story here. Did you guys ever hear the story about the 1515?
I haven't.
Okay, so I will tell you guys the story about the 1515. So Commodore didn't make printers, and they contracted with people like this 1702. I forget. This is like I can't think of the name of the company, but Magnavox or something like that. They made this and whatnot. And the original one was the 1701. This is the 1702. Well, they needed a printer, so they were going to do the drive and they were going to do the computer, but the printer they weren't going to do. And so they contracted with CoCoTALK, and they said, we want a printer that prints on 8.5-inch paper, 8.5-inch fan fold paper. So CoCoTALK built them a printer that printed on 8.5-inch total width fan fold paper,
including the tractor feed.
Including the tractor feed.
So that's a non-standard paper.
That's right. And so the printer paper was 7.5 inches wide. It's all the internals are the same kind of internals, but the characters are just ever so small, ever so much squished, right? Because they had to fit them all 80 columns on, and this was an 8x6 printer or a 7x6 printer, right? So 7 dots tall by 6 dots wide. And
okay.
So
not
it was
even a 9-pin.
No, this was pre 9-pin. So
yeah.
Anyway, so they made the printer, Commodore got it, and then they were like, no, we meant 8.5 inches of paper with an inch of fan fold. So then they had to redo it. Then that was the 1525. And then the 1525, when the Commodore 64 came out, the 1525 wouldn't work with the Commodore 64, so they had to come out with, you'll see some of them, they won't say it on here, but they'll say it on the box. It says 1525E, because the serial bus had to be slower on the Commodore 64. This did not handle that well, and so they had to put a new firmware ROM in it and make it slower so it would work with the Commodore 64.
Wow, what a flustercluck.
So
just pointed out to me that this is a JVC.
JVC. Okay, so JVC made the monitor for.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have a good microphone. I wasn't planning on talking to people. Can you guys hear them?
Yeah, we can hear them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they can hear you. So hey, hi. So, hey, everybody's we're done with the festivities. So
hey guys.
They're all going to eat. So
hey.
I've had this set up since 2009.
Oh, this is your original. This is your original machine. Is this your original unit here?
Yeah, this was my first computer.
Oh man, look at that! And how old are you?
I'm 16 now, and that was my first.
Okay.
This setup has been built. Oh, and then the +4 over here I just got last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and I was going to show them the +4. So this is the Commodore +4, the ill-fated Commodore +4.
It has a bad tension, so that's why.
Yeah, which is common for the +4, right?
Yeah. So until we can source another tension, it's going to be a
just go find a C16, right? Just go find good Rob won't have a C16. That's a useless PC. It is.
Of the Commodore world.
It was. So this is
the MC10 of the Commodore world.
It's true. Man, you got a lot of VIC-20 cartridges too. That's cool.
I do have
what was the purpose of it?
I have every original actual VIC cartridge, so VIC numbered cartridge.
Yep.
I have all the original. I'm only missing 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
I'm only missing, but I left them at home.
That's pretty cool. So you see what they're talking about? They got the actual number on, and these are the older cartridges because they have the silver, like the case here. You got the kind of metal. Yeah, this is the new style, so it's got the plastic after they reduced the cost on them.
Sure.
So there you go. More trivia. Thanks, guys.
That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
What a treat.
I remember.
So go ahead.
I remember as a Commodore user, the C64, and I had the SX and the C128, and then there's the +4 and the Commodore. What? Different basic, not compatible. It's like, really?
Yep.
What are they thinking?
So these are some souped up floppy drives here with LED lights on them and stuff?
Yeah, this is I'll have to show this one, but this one's got the super tracker on it. This is a new product that Jim Droop is working on, so it'll tell you the track and sector. The phone's having a hard time
Yeah, but it's doing a really good job, though. I mean, for the most part, your video is really clear.
Anyway, so this is track 18.0, and then this is a half track thing here, I think. So it'll take 18 track 18 sector 0, and then this will tell you whether you're on half track or not, because you got 80 half tracks on a 1541. So this is a new product. Let me see if I can get the unit up here so it'll show you what it looks like. So it sits in one of the chips here is the in the CoCo there's what they call the hold on here. In the CoCo there's the PIA, the peripheral this is the Commodore version of that. I think it was just ripped off from the Commodore version. It's the 6522 VIA, versatile interface adapter. Yep. And then you've got there's the little back of the LCD screen. Looks like a contemporary, like a Maker type LCD screen for an Arduino or something like that. This is an old style. This is back in the day. I forget what the name of the company is that made this, but this is, fits instead of, instead of fitting where, you'd cut all this out and you'd put this in.
Okay. It took up a lot more space. Yeah.
Version
I forget the name of it, but
okay.
It came in the time. A couple more SX64s.
Neat.
And let's see, what else do we have? This is a bunch of stuff over at the raffle table. I'll show you guys that real quick. So they got a 500 they're raffling off.
Yes, 128.
Looks good.
I got a Zoom modem. Anybody want a Zoom modem? That's a 56K, or no, 14.4 modem.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Jiffy DOS.
And a copy of, what'd you say? Oh, yeah, an original. That's an original copy of Jiffy DOS. So I sell it now, but it came boxed originally like that.
Wow.
And Jiffy DOS goes both in the computer and the disk drive to speed up the disk transfer.
Yeah, this one is I don't know that it tells what kind it is, but so it's one or the other. It's either the drive or the
Jim has the legal license. You don't want to buy an illegal copy.
Yep. So there's the Commodore story. I know they've been showing that at various shows, and then there's somebody's making some new labels for the SX64. Those are pretty nice.
To the bottom of the keyboard.
Yep. Somebody's making these brand new. They're like boxes. They're all nice and shiny. You can't really tell on the video, but they're
nice.
Some sort of book.
Retro game dev. Okay.
Yep. And then and there's a cream colored 1541. That was a 1541C, which was sold with the Commodore C64C, which was that sloped case. I don't know that we've seen one of those. It's like the 128, but it's a 64 version.
Lower than
we can see your finger.
Sorry.
It's okay.
And then you got your requisite shirts. CRX swag.
Nice.
And somebody's got a SX, and there's another one of those printouts.
Yeah, the digitizer thing. That's really cool.
Yep. And then I've got my this is my booth.
Okay. So,
bunch of junk at the booth. I traveled kind of light. I packed, so somebody had to bring the rest of the equipment. So I just got a little bit of equipment or a little bit of stuff to sell. So there it is. There's probably not very many people in the room right now because everybody's heading off to dinner.
It is a good size room.
Yes, it is. It's a 7,300 square feet. So
that is pretty cool.
But yeah, the +4, and I think there's another +4 over on this neck of the woods. But
that was the box one, I think.
Yeah.
Earlier.
The +4 was, and we don't have the actual machine that. So when Commodore was done with the 64, Jack Tramiel wanted he wanted to kill off the Timex Sinclair market, right? Because at the time, Timex Sinclair was the little doorstop, and the MC-10, all those kinds of machines. He wanted to kill those off, and so he asked people to create a low-cost, basically a Timex Sinclair killer, and and it was called the C116. They were going to sell it for like $59. Well, they got it done, and then they decided that they were going to create a version of it that looks like a VIC-20, and they were going to put it in a C64 case like that one right there, and they called that the C16. It didn't have anything different from the C116. The C116 had a chiclet keyboard, but then they created the +4, which is what I showed you earlier, and then they added just a few things to it, more memory and a UART chip, but otherwise it was the same. It was the same unit.
It had some built-in apps too. The +4.
It did. It was called the oh man, what were they called? But they were crappy apps. I mean, they were terrible apps. They were rushed to market. 3+1 was the software called. It was called 3+1, and it was just revamped versions of Commodore, like it was a spreadsheet-like app and a word processor and something, but they weren't very good. And
rushed them to get them into the space of a ROM.
That's right. And when they got that thing done, they charged more than a 64. So people are like, why would I buy this? It doesn't have any more memory than a Commodore 64. It has better graphics, but the BASIC was not. It was BASIC 3.5. So
you could carry over the C64 program. It's like,
no, you couldn't.
Well, you didn't have the sprites and stuff, but you had commands for drawing lines and things that you didn't have on 64.
That's true. But anyway, it was just a bad idea. It would have been a great machine. The C116 would have been a great way to kill off the remaining Timex Sinclair machines if that was Jack's goal. But the +4 was almost stillborn. I don't think they sold any. They sold very few 116s. They only sold them in Japan. The C16 was sold in the U.S., but it sold very poorly.
There was
+4 was
some country in Europe.
Hungary.
Yeah.
Hungary went bananas for it, but that was the only country when it made any market penetration.
I have a picture of a +4, but it says if I share my screen, it's going to cut everybody's audio off.
Well, why don't you let me show you this one more thing, and then I'm going to shut off my video, and I'm actually going to go to dinner because I'm hungry.
All right. Well, hey, Jim, we can't thank you enough for this coverage.
No problem. So this is a very odd machine, a very odd drive. So this is a 1570 drive, right? And so you look at it, it looks just like a 1541, except for the front thing or label. So what happened is they got the 128 ready. I don't know if I see a flat 128 around, but anyway, they had a 128 done, which was the kind of flat front case, cream colored machine. But they couldn't get they couldn't get this 1571 done in time. They had some of it done, but they didn't have it finished. And I think they were missing some of the double-sided mechanisms that go in that unit. So they quickly put this unit together. I believe it was only sold in Europe, because if you can see that connector there, it's a European connector. So I don't even believe they only sold them in Europe. And it's a single-sided 170K, but it will read MFM discs. So, remember the 1570, 1571 was for the 128, and the reason that they went to the new drive is so they could read CPM discs. So they could read Olivetti, and they could read North Star, and all those kinds of CPM machines. This could read single-sided CPM discs, MFM, could not read double-sided discs, used a 1541 mechanism, I believe, different electronics. But it was only on the market for a short time. As soon as the 1571, which is this drive over here, as soon as this drive, and you notice this has got the new, the new style front and everything. That's an old style front. As soon as they had this this unit in production, they discontinued that drive. So that's kind of an anomaly. That's a pretty rare drive, actually.
One of my customers was a software developer, and he had a 1571. And he had software, which I think was called Big Blue Reader.
It is.
Read IBM discs.
That's right. You could read IBM 360K low-density discs, not the high-density, but the low-density discs.
71.
Yes, on the 1571. You could do that. It was two programs that would do it. One was called Big Blue Reader, which was a pay program, and the other one was called Little Red Reader, which was a free program. This is a data set for a +4 C16. It doesn't look any different from the other one. It's just different color scheme. But they did change the pinout to be a 7-pin mini DIN, so it was incompatible with the VIC-20 and the C64. So there you go. Now you've seen all of CRX.
Yeah, Mark, you were holding us something up before that we couldn't see. You want to?
Commodore C.
That's a 128. And here's a C64. This is another one of those new style cases, but the same idea.
128 looked like that, but it was just deeper in the back.
Okay.
And the Commodore 128 was a dual Commodore 64 compatible. It had a Commodore 128 mode, and it could also run CPM natively.
Z80 has a Z80.
Yeah,
right.
And it boots off the Z80 before the 6502.
It does. It does. Bill tells some good stories about that.
Bill Hurd has some good stories.
It does. So if you want a VIC, you can get one for $60 right there.
Not bad. Not bad.
That's actually
with all those cartridges?
Cartridges and Jiffy DOS installed. Jiffy DOS is $20 by itself, so
wow,
it's not a bad deal.
Wish I had the money. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, the 8-bit guy was remaindering a whole bunch of VIC-20 logic boards. I don't know if he has any.
All right, I'm trying to switch back the view here. I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty here with Zoom, just figuring out how to switch my views back. Gallery view. Here we go. All right, we're back. Are you, Al? Are you still there? Did I accidentally mute you, or are you able to talk?
I'm here.
Okay, you cut off for just a second. Sorry about that. All right, so Jim Brain, we can't thank you enough for all that coverage and all. Yeah, that's some good eye candy going on there.
The 8-bit guy has VIC-20 motherboards for $30.
Oh wow, not bad.
But you need to get a keyboard and a power supply for them.
Ken Reichert's asking, did the Timex and Sinclairs really sell enough to warrant a killer? Did we need to create a trained assassin to take them down?
Timex Sinclair had the 1000, the 1500, and they were all over on the various, like Kmart, supermarkets.
Well, if you look at some of the old trade magazines, that was one of the first computers to sell over 1 million units.
Oh wow! Just because it was so cheap.
Yeah,
they were so cheap and they were ubiquitous. They were everywhere. And the problem was they were in the same stores that Commodore 64s were selling. And people would look at the Commodore 64, look at a Timex 1000, not understanding the difference in functionality, and they'd get the cheaper computer.
Sure, just looking at the price tag.
Because they thought they were the same.
Cheaper. It was considerably cheaper.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, a $100 system was cheap when the average computer was $300-400 and up.
And then when the Timex Sinclair 2068 came out, which really was a feature competitor with the Commodore 64, because it was based on the Sinclair Spectrum, which in England beat the pants off of the Commodore 64 in sales.
Well, there was the hype of it being a UK-based company too.
Yeah, there was that. There was that it was a little less expensive, and they had a lot of great software for this Spectrum. The only problem is Timex made the 2068 incompatible with the Spectrum. It's like the difference between a Dragon and a CoCo, and you couldn't run the same software without making changes to it.
Not close enough.
Missed it by that much.
Yep, I have a 2068 here, and I have a Spectrum somewhere, and you can turn a 2068 into a Spectrum by putting the Spectrum ROM into it or using a Spectrum emulator cartridge.
Yeah.
And then you could run Spectrum software on a 2068. And there's something called a twister board that you plug into the expansion connector, and you can use Spectrum hardware. And there's very nice MMC, like a CoCo SDC for the Spectrum.
Okay.
And it will work on the 2068 with the twister. And there are a lot of nice new hardware products for the Spectrum still being made to this day.
There's a huge following.
And a company is building a new generation Spectrum called the Spectrum Next, NEXT.
Mm-hmm.
And the case and the keyboard are gorgeous. And it's compatible with the old Spectrum, but it's got it's got an SD card reader built in. It has HDMI output. It has it's FPGA based. It's really nice system. And
yeah, more RAM, sprites, more colors.
I just watched a YouTube video today where they have the logic board almost ready to go. Should be ready by shortly, and then they plan to have the case done by the end of September, because they were just waiting on the logic board to finalize the case, and then they're going to go into production by January, they claim.
They already released the first version of the logic board to the Kickstarter backers.
Oh, that's
and there's only very minor changes in this new version.
Now, but that's just the logic board. There's no case.
Oh, I know. I'm back that Kickstarter, so I'm watching it closely.
Great, that's great. I believe me, I want one of those puppies because I used to work for Z Systems. That was one of the best Timex Sinclair.
Another neat thing about the Next is that the case and keyboard were designed by the same designer who designed the original Spectrum case. And he unfortunately passed a few months ago.
Oh, that's a shame. I actually liked the second generation Spectrum case, the one that looked like the QL. I thought that was very snappy looking case and keyboard. The second cases. The first case was the same as the Timex Sinclair.
Hey, just out of curiosity, does that system have Microsoft DOS in it or Microsoft Basic?
No.
No.
Okay. Okay.
No, that's Sinclair.
Sinclair's own.
Okay, so that's why it's easy.
By a guy in Britain who was not was employed by Sinclair, but not a Sinclair employee.
Okay, because I think that's one of the things that's holding up, like a Coco Mini mass-produced product, kind of like the C64 Classic Mini and stuff like that. It's just the intellectual properties.
I mean, if you look on the Cloud9 website, he has ROMs for the Coco that boot right to Nitrous 9 that skip all of the RS-DOS, and all it is a boot ROM that just loads Nitrous 9. So someone could make a Coco 3 clone and just use those open source boot ROMs.
Yeah.
Using the microware and the Microsoft copyrighted ROMs.
We could make a new BASIC. The problem you run into is, in order to make it compatible, you're going to have similar code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to have all the same entrance points for all the routines, and it's going to have to be fairly close.
Yeah, if you have the same entrance points, you're kind of stuck.
Hard to make a clean room version.
It can be done because people did it with the IBM BIOS ROMs back in the day. The only problem is a Coco 3 clone or a Coco 4 or whatever you're going to call it, it's not going to sell as well as an IBM PC clone. So the development...
You got to remember that the BIOS is a lot more limited in what it does than a basic interpreter.
Smaller code, yeah. Smaller amount of code.
Well, I used to work everywhere. I used to work for a clone dealer back in the day, and we used to sell clones, and you could literally stick an IBM BIOS and IBM Basic ROMs on the motherboard, and it would then run them. Or we would sell them with the Taiwanese BIOS, the Ursa or Urso BIOS, and then there was Phoenix BIOS back in the day.
I used to work at Kmart for a brief period of time. You said you worked at a lot of places.
I never worked at Kmart.
I worked at Kmart. I even got to do the blue light special sometimes.
I worked for CompUSA.
Over the air.
I worked for CompUSA. I worked for Radio Shack.
Yeah. Attention Kmart shoppers, if I could call your attention to the back of the store, we're having one of our unadvertised blue light specials on Spalding golf balls. That's right, for the next 10 minutes and 10 minutes only. Spalding golf balls, originally $9.99, just $6.99. I want to thank you for shopping your local Kmart. Yeah, so it's been many years, but you just brought that back to me.
Hey, Kmart.
This sounds like a commercial break.
Kmart sold color computers. They sold the TDP 100s.
Oh wow! This was probably a few years after that.
Sears and Kmart sold the TDP 100s, which is why Tandy did that.
Well, I'm glad they did because it created a mutant strain of Coco that is highly coveted for collectors.
I know, and there's one on eBay right now, but I don't have the money for it.
Okay. Jim Brain had to leave us. David Ladd is now warning that he's leaving us now, too. I'm going to head to bed. Got to get up early. Good night, all. So thank you, David Ladd.
Is that a warning or a favor?
Yeah, right. Is that a promise or a threat? David has left us. Jim Brain has left us. It's now dinner time out there in Nevada. Cool. Well, we've just reached the 2-hour mark. I think we've had a successful retro talk. This was mostly Commodore talk, and that's good enough. I do embrace these other systems. I find it interesting to learn about them a little bit. Well, at some point in time, I wouldn't mind owning one of every retro system. I don't have the room for it. Certainly don't have the money for it. But
or your wife's patience.
Yes, or
see, I'm not
sympathy.
Married, so I'm getting there.
Your brother's been with this color commentary, Jason. Ken's been in the live chat. Ken says, I worked at 84 Lumber. No Cocos were sold there.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at a Hills department store, and I remember Hills selling Commodore 64s, but that was way before I worked for them.
There was a big place in Canada that the name was like something Tire, right? What was it called?
Canadian Tire?
Canadian Tire. I mean, they were selling computers at a store called Canadian Tire because apparently it was like a big department store too, right? So,
well, when you got your computer at the grocery store, you know you got a good one.
Paper or plastic?
Hey, well, that Commodore 64 Jim sold us, the Aldi, was a grocery store that sold those.
Right, yeah, and when you use the Aldi version of the C64, you have to put a quarter in it.
Just like the shopping cart.
You don't get till you turn it back off.
Yeah, Canadian Tire, Curtis says. And I noticed James Diffendaffer too. You're no longer sporting your Mandelbrot or your
No,
so
that's my local Radio Shack.
Is that a current photo of a local Radio Shack?
That is a current photo. They are still in business. They were an independent store.
No.
Yeah, Radio Shack is still alive and well through their independent dealers, but
they're
all out in the sticks, and that explains a lot.
Yep.
Is there a train nearby there anywhere?
Yeah. It's a little further away than me from my trains, but
all right. Well, this was definitely a good retro talk. Let's see who was in the live chat that's still here that I can say hi to. So Mark Overholzer was in live chat. Ken Reichert, Red Rum Lola was here. Paul Fiscarelli, 898 Dofo, and Ken and myself. I chimed in. Nick Marotta was here. Curtis Boyle was here. Mikey was here. Paul Fiscarelli was here. Dan Shepard was here. Retro Innovations. Al Hartman, Nick Marotta, Mikey. Disney Saints fan was in the live chat. And Retro Innovations was in the live chat. And who else? I'm trying not to repeat names here at this point. Curtis Boyle. D. Bruce Moore was here. It's still here, possibly. Who else? Tim Franklin. Hey, Tim Franklin. How are you? D. Bruce Moore. Rob Inman is here. So Rob Inman's here. So we've had a decent people in the chat. We've had somewhat decent people in the panel. A few of them who will not be named.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
Yes. Tim Franklin is here. Nick Marotta is here. Nick Marotta. So
Jason has a nice ball.
What's that, Al?
Jason has a nice ball.
Yeah, Jason's got a nice ball. It's blue. It's got a bouncing blue ball back there.
I also have an 8-inch floppy around here somewhere.
Kyle Eder is here. Kyle, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a patron as well, helping support the insanity here that we produce.
Thank you, Kyle.
Brendan Donahue says, just got here in time to see it end. Okay.
If anyone's interested, I put a picture of a +4 on the RetroTALK area on Discord.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. Here, let me pull it up real quick, and I'll put it on screen. On the screen, number one. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah.
I actually like the +4, but it
reminded me of that. And,
yeah, that looks very Sinclairish. Yes.
8-Bit Guy did a video. He got one and he refurbished it.
Okay, and these are the arrow-shaped arrow keys, I take it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see the 4 buttons on the top? Each one of those selects a different application.
Oh, okay. Those are your different.
Because they bought, like they were, you know how VIP made that VIP suite, and you had the calc program, and you had the a similar company in the Commodore market, and Commodore just licensed their software and put it in ROM on the +4.
Okay.
That's what the +4 means.
Okay, +4 applications.
Yeah, they marketed it as a business computer, but it's not built like a business computer. And
no, it looks like a toy.
The basic supports over, what is it, 52K available to basic if you're not using high-res graphics. But it got a faster processor than the Commodore 64. But in supporting all that RAM, it has to switch off, turn off, interrupt, switch. I mean, it's a head explode type of thing, but it's really slow, and it actually runs basic slower than the Commodore 64.
Wow.
And it wasn't compatible.
And it wasn't compatible.
There was no way to springboard from what you had.
Wow.
So the graphics mode for high-res graphics is similar, and you have more colors, but you know, without the sprites, that's most of what the games use.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder why.
And they made the same missteps with the 128. The Commodore 128, most people run it in 64 mode because there's not a lot of 128 mode software, and the CPM on it is such a kludge that, you know, nobody.
It's slow and it's
slow.
Yeah.
What happened was there was a CPM cartridge for the 64, and when they designed the 128, they found that the 64 cartridge for CPM wasn't compatible with it. So they wanted to make it a business computer, so they put CPM capability in it, but it was really not that well designed.
Ken says that the +4 is more of a -100.
There's a lot of people who say stuff like that. I'm actually porting some code over to it, and the code is for that 80-column text stuff I've been doing on other machines, 64 80-column. And the code is identical except for setting up the graphics mode when it comes to Commodore 64 version or yet. I mean, it's a, I don't know.
And I think the +4 and the Commodore 16 were available in Japan, besides Hungary.
The Commodore it was too expensive. I mean, it was more than a Commodore 64. Had it been $120 or whatever, at the time the Commodore 64 was, what was it, still several $100s?
Yeah.
You know, that would have made sense. But, you know, oh well.
Towards the end, the Commodore 64s were selling for like $150.
Yeah. Now the basic's not bad. Like I said, it has graphics commands and stuff instead of having to do a whole bunch of pokes and stuff like the Commodore 64. And it's kind of reminiscent of the CoCo, but they didn't have commands for doing software sprites, and they didn't like the get and put, and they didn't have. Well, they have a draw command, but it's actually for drawing individual lines. It's not for drawing complex shapes like the one on the CoCo. So if they had added those two things, I think they would have been a little better off. And yeah, it is what it is. It was meant to be a low-end machine, and they tried to market it as something else, and it failed. But the main reason they killed it off was they needed the production for the Commodore 64. They were selling them. They were still selling them at the point when they discontinued them. It's just they needed the facilities to make Commodore 64s.
Yeah, yeah. It seems counterproductive that a company is making an inferior version of something they already create. It's almost like they're diluting their own market.
Well, it depends on what you mean. If they had taken and put it in a pet type case and marketed it as a business machine, and it was built like a business machine, it would have been great for that. But
yeah,
you know, they were marketing it to the same market as the Commodore 64, sort of.
You have to remember, back in that day, Atari had the original Atari 800 with that nice keyboard, and then they brought out the cut-down Atari 400 that had the flat
membrane.
The membrane keyboard, and it had 16K of RAM instead of the 48K that an 800 had. And that was part of the thinking in that day. You'd come out with a cheap entry-level model, and then you do, you know, a more professional version. Even the CoCo came out at 16K original, 4K. CoCo 1 came out at 4K and 16K originally.
Right, and non-extended basic.
And non-extended basic.
Right.
Because that was like the Model 1. The Model 1 came out at 4K and 16K, and you had the Model 1 basic, the level 1.
I actually found an ad for the Model 1 where they were still selling the lower end Model 1 with level 1 basic, and they were selling it with more RAM with level 2 basic. So,
well, my Model 1, I bought it as a 16K level 1 Model 1. The guy at the store had one in stock and wanted to get rid of it like nobody's business, and they talked me into it. But 6 months later, I was back getting a level 2 upgrade because there was almost no software for level 1. And to type in the software from the books, a lot of it wasn't compatible with level 1 because...
Well, you had to do abbreviation because it didn't have tokenization.
Right. Well, not only that, it didn't have... Level 1 Basic didn't have a lot of the commands that...
Right. It was tiny basic. It was basically what it was.
It was a tiny basic. It was an 8K tiny basic, I think it was. Or a 4K tiny basic, I forget.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's beat this one to death. Good. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This has been a wonderful, wonderful retro talk, and this has really helped me realize that I think this show and this format, it's got potential. We can get more people to join us. We can have more discussions. We can talk about things outside the realm of the color computer and talk about more things and just have a good time doing it. And we've been doing it for a little over 2 hours already. And this is our second show in one day. So we did a 2.5 hour CoCoTALK. We're now coming up on a almost 2.5 hour retro talk. So 5 hours of retro goodness in one day. Well, there ought to be a law.
I think what worked about this show was that you had Jim Brain, who is an expert in Commodore, be our tour guide at that show and of the Commodore. So in other future shows, you might try to pick people to be co-hosts that are experts in particular models of other classic computers.
Yeah. Just like CoCoTALK will sometimes have a topic where we're going to talk about this system or this thing. We can have topic nights like tonight, and we can just have random unplanned nights too, where it's just a bunch of discussions that still are stimulating as well. So I see it being kind of a mix of those two: planned topic shows and just free form shows, kind of like CoCoTALK. A little bit of everything. So I think RetroTALK's got a future, and if this is a good indication of that future, I think so. Good times. Well, thank you guys all for being here. Certainly appreciate it.
Push the button, Frank.
We're going to push the button, so we're going to make sure we say goodbye to Nick Marotta and Tim Franklin and Mikey and Paul Fiscarelli and Disney Saints fan and everybody who's been in the live chat with us. Rob Inman, Tim Franklin, Rodolfo, Jim Farley, Curtis Boyle, Retro Innovations, D. Bruce Moore, Ken Reichert, They're all here. Everyone who's anyone is here. Ken's asking for a core dump. There you go. So we're going to play some outro here. Great show, Curtis says. Thanks, Curtis, for being here. And so thank you all for being here. I don't know if you guys have noticed some of the new artwork, but on the left-hand side of the screen, you're seeing some of the newer logos of Geek Talk, Retro Talk, and CoCoTALK. So all of these logos are designed by Joel M. Adams. And our original CoCoTALK guy, Mark, are you wearing a CoCoTALK shirt? I don't know if you are.
Yeah,
you are.
I'm wearing After Dark.
Yeah, me too. So here's my After Dark shirt. So this was the original CoCoTALK After Dark. My microphone's in the way. But yeah, so these shirts are available on our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. And some of these new logos will be available in the very near future. So the new CoCoTALK logo will be available. Mark Overholzer with his After Dark shirt. The new RetroTALK logo will be available on a t-shirt. I kind of like the new Coco guy with his thumb sticking up. It's kind of cool. Gary Frampton has just subscribed at the last minute there. Bill Noble has joined us. Hey, Bill. So yeah, if you guys want to get a cool RetroTALK shirt, that will be available on the website on our Retro Swag shop very, very soon. Looking forward to that. And all right, we're going to play the outro. The outro still says CoCoTALK After Dark. Sorry, James, were you getting ready to say something?
Yeah, I've been starting to dump all my code for various machines that I've written over the last few years onto my blog. It's 6502, Z80, 6809, 6803, C code, all sorts of stuff. So if people want to check out that, why, there's a lot of stuff up there recently.
What's the link to your blog? I'll put it in the live chat right now. Okay.
The link is jdiffendaffer.blogspot.com.
jdiffendaffer.blogspot.com.
Correct.
jdiffendaffer at .blogspot.com. That would be the link to check out James's blog, where he's saying he's got some dumps on his blog.
Yep.
And Scott Wendt, thank you for being here. And Mark Overholzer, thank you for being here. Jason Reichert, Al Hartman, James Diffendaffer, very special thanks to Jim Brain and Retro Innovations for bringing us live coverage of the Commodore Retro Expo. Mark Overholzer just posted it with the proper http:// in front of it. Apparently that's an important component of a URL these days.
If you want hyperlinkable.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more hyperlinkable. All right, so we're going to play some outro music here, and we'll see you guys in a future show at some other time in the future. Thank you all for being here. Good night, everybody. Press the button, Frank. All right, so this wraps up another RetroTALK, CoCoTALK After Dark production. Check us out on the web at CoCoTALK.live. We're on Facebook. I want to thank Paul Schaefer and the band. Yeah, Nick Marentes was here earlier. Nick Marota's in the live chat. Disney Saints fan. Disney Saints fan says thanks. There we go. Mark Overholzer is jamming out there to this tune. That's a real catchy tune. That's got a real late night talk show feel to it.
Paul Schaefer and the CoCoTALK Orchestra.
That's right. Yes. Shall we need us? Who would the Ed McMahon of our show be? Yes, you are correct, sir.
Hi-yo.
Curtis is the Ed McMahon.
He's the Ed McMahon of Canada. I'm just waiting for the sweepstakes in the middle.
Hey, Nick Marota's here, everybody. Hey, when did Nick Marota get here?
Nick Marota.
Isn't he a CNN correspondent?
Nick Marota reporting live from Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv, coming at you. Tel Aviv, yes. All right, we're going to press the button. We're going to put this show out of its misery. This train wreck is about to end in 5, 4, 3. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. 2, 1.